Good evening and welcome back to my No Name channel. I'm Bruce and this is another Bali Covid-19 update for November 29th, 2020. And, well, let's get started. What about the numbers? So, numbers have gone up since my last one. Up hovering at the 100 mark, and yesterday was 109 people newly infected, 13,938 total cases, 12,588 recovered, 428 deaths, and the number of active cases has gone way up from a few weeks ago. We now have 922 active cases. So, it looked like things were getting better, but this has been a bit of a downturn, and we have the end of the year coming up, and I'll talk about that shortly. So, what about the cases? All Indonesians yesterday, and no foreigners. Was a foreigner the day before, and all but one were local transmissions. One was an imported domestic case, and numbers by Regency: Badung 24, Denpasar 24, Gianyar 20, Tabanan 17, Jembrana 10, Buleleng 2, and Bangli 1. So, okay, this does not bode well for opening, and I'll get to that shortly. Okay, first story. Vaccine cold chain is almost finished in Indonesia. So the National COVID-19 Task Force, the chairman, said that the preparation for the distribution network of the vaccine is almost finished. This is as cases continue to rise. Yesterday in the country, it's a total 5,418 new cases, and we've been up over 5,000 three times recently. And the coal supply chain is 96% across the country finished, according to the chairman, and according to the task force spokesman, the chairman. A cold chain is distribution of the vaccine at a low temperature, okay, because you have to keep the vaccine cold. Now, there's different temperatures that different vaccines have to be kept at. The plan is still to get at least 160 million doses from the Chinese pharmaceutical companies by late December. I talked about that before. It looks like the cases are going to be a little later than had originally been planned. You remember a few weeks ago, I was talking about they were going to start vaccinating people in November, and then it was early December, and now looks like it's going to be at the end of the year or early next year at the earliest. And they're still working on a priority plan. The priority plan has not been put in place yet. They have been working on this, and well, they think they've got it. It'll be interesting to see where Bali comes out in this, because there's a push, of course, to get Bali open, a push from local people and nationally as well. They would like to see money coming in from Bali again, of course, and we'll see what happens. It's unlikely that the Indonesian government will purchase the vaccine developed by Pfizer that everybody's been talking about internationally, because it needs to be kept at a temperature of negative 70 degrees Celsius, and that ain't going to happen here. So, looks like we're going to go with the Chinese vaccine, and sometime in the next month or so, they'll start rolling out the vaccines, and there are going to be double doses. So, not the best news. Okay, what do I got next? School openings. So, of course, you know, I'm interested in school openings, well, as a retired teacher, and also as the grandfather of a second grader. I'd like to see her out of the house and back at school. And I'm sure my son, who's been tutoring her, would like to see her go back to school as well. So the central government has decided that regional governments can open schools for face-to-face learning beginning in January 2021. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago as well, that we had already received a letter from our school going over the procedures, what was going to happen, and then asking us if we were willing to send our granddaughter to school. And face-to-face schooling will be decided through a joint decree by 4 ministries: Ministry of Education, Culture, the Ministry of Religion, the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Home Affairs. And they will make this decision. They'll issue the decree, and regional heads then can decide on face-to-face learning either simultaneously or gradually. The Minister of Education and Culture emphasized that the decree allows local governments to open schools as long as they're observing health protocols. And these health protocols are sanitation, medical facilities, readiness to implement mandatory masking, thermal guns, mapping educational units. Now, it's interesting, this is by translation, educational units. What that means is teachers and administrators and everybody else that's working in the school. Mapping educational units to find out who has comorbidities, and then school committees and parent guardian approval. So all those things have to be done, and it looks like we're going to do that. Schools should only operate at 50% capacity. The parents of each child are free to determine whether they want to send their child to school or not. And even those schools may be opened. So some parents may decide not to send their children. They can continue to do learning at home. And I've discussed this before too. The Ministry of Health noted that distance learning has been in place for almost a year, and some studies have already been carried out, and that there's a number of obstacles with home learning, and I've mentioned these before. There's the threat of children dropping out of school because they either can't access online lessons, or they just don't get it, they just don't want to do it, they're bored. An increased risk of stress, and there was a story a few weeks ago about a girl who committed suicide on another island, not in Bali, because of the stress of online learning. The occurrence of violence in children. This is domestic violence. This is happening in a lot of places around the world, unfortunately. And gaps in learning achievement and learning loss. And I think everybody, teachers, parents, students, government people who often don't know much about education, although they like to pretend they do, that this is just not the ideal situation. Teachers are doing what they can. They're really putting in amazing amounts of effort. Teaching online is not an easy thing. There's some really funny memes out about this because we have to laugh. But I know a lot of frustrated teachers around the world dealing with this situation. So the opening of schools then is not going to be based any longer on zoning. It's going to be a policy of the local government, and the Minister of Health emphasized that health personnel are committed to increasing the role of local health clinics in supervising and coaching educational units, teachers, administrators, and other school workers in implementing health protocols. He also called on everyone to be disciplined in implementing the health protocols, such as mask wearing, maintaining social distance, washing hands, so that we can get through the pandemic. So, good news. I know my granddaughter's school, this coming week, starting tomorrow, this is Sunday here, their end of semester tests are coming up to decide if they're going to move up to the next level. So she's in 2A She would move up to 2B if she passes. We'll see, inshallah. And so then there's a break, then they'll come back, and hopefully they'll come back into school. Okay, next story. End of the year celebrations may be impacted, may be stopped. So, you know, we have New Year's, we have Christmas. Even though Indonesia is a majority Muslim country, Christmas is celebrated by a lot of people. It is holidays. Indonesia has a lot of holidays for all the religions that are recognized, all the official religions, 6 official religions. And so it's a time for a break for students and for workers as well. So the COVID-19 Handling Task Force is still watching developments from the last month's long holiday to see if there's been an increase in positive cases. And previous holidays throughout these years here, throughout this year since the COVID-19 era, there have been increases after each big break, after each big holiday, social gatherings. And so the government is monitoring this. If there is an increase in positive cases, the COVID-19 Handling Task Force will recommend to the central government to shorten or stop end of the year holidays. According to Donnie Minardo, chairperson of the task force, if there is no increase, there won't be any shortening of the holidays. If there is an increase, well, they're going to make a recommendation. The recommendation can be to limit it in somehow, and I'd like to see how that's going to be done, or to completely ban it. Minardo further noted that there are people that are still violating the protocols, and he said that people that organize activities, public activities, or private activities that create crowds will be held accountable by government authorities in this life and by Allah in the next life. So he's serious about this. And you may, if you follow Indonesian news, know that there have been some mass gatherings recently by a figure who is a very controversial figure. I'm not going to discuss that right now, but he is being sanctioned for creating these crowds of people where it's likely that there will be a super spreader events, as they call them. And so we'll have to see what's going to happen. I know in Bali there's already plans from bars and restaurants for Christmas and New Year's activities. So what's going to happen if the government decides to restrict the celebrations or ban them completely? Will people follow the government regulations? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay. And so let's go back to the question that everybody asked. When is Bali going to open? So once again on social media this week there's been a flurry of conversations, gossip, rumors about Bali opening on the 1st. Well, the 1st is a couple of days away. Ain't happening. And our deputy governor has stressed again, we are not opening on December 1st. And you'll know that if you've watched this before, that I thought that I had a guess, a hunch, that Bali would open up for the end of the year celebrations for Christmas and New Year's, but looks like that is not happening either. So I guessed wrong on that one, but I made clear that I was guessing. There was nothing to support that. It was just a guess based on my experience here. It seems that Bali will be opening early next year, according to the deputy governor. When? Don't know. He didn't say. Ain't gonna happen if you've been waiting. Now, if you watched last week and you watched some of the videos that I've been linking to on on this channel, but on the Singaraja snippets, I've been linking to some videos of foreigners and locals who travel around the island and update daily. This is good stuff for people that are tourists or who live here seasonally and want to know about that. They have talked about how people have been coming in for not short-term but long-term, or relatively long-term stays. And I mentioned it as well in my last one about the B211 visa. Well, that's happening. Okay, people are coming. The tourist visas still not happening. People are still not going to get to come in until next year, it looks like. And but on a related but slightly different story, the Chinese may be returning by February 2021. According to a story in Bali Discovery and several other Indonesian language online news sources, virtual discussions took place between the Deputy Governor, the Consul General of the People's Republic of China, and the Chairman of the Bali Tourism Board concerning steps and strategies to restart the Chinese market in Bali. And the Deputy Governor said that Bali has been maintaining a relationship with China that goes beyond just trade and tourism, but that it's also a number of cultural links that we have between the two countries, well, between the two cultures, let's say, not the two countries. Bali is not a country, even though sometimes people like to pretend it is. According to the Deputy Governor, the Balinese government and tourism players, hotels, restaurants, everybody, travel agents, have been aggressively and consistently carrying out international standard health protocols in all areas of tourism, and I've talked about this on a number of different videos. And he said that he hopes that China will see what Bali has done and will recommend Bali to the tourism networks in China in order to rebuild confidence in visiting Bali. Now, the Consul General expressed his appreciation for everything that's been done by Bali, for all the efforts, and noted that in China, they've opened their domestic tourism market and it's reached previous levels with no new cases linked to domestic tourism. And if you watch the news at all, you've seen tourist places in China packed with people. There was a great photo of the Great Wall, just had people packed in like sardines. Additionally, he said that China is considering reopening its borders to international tourists and allowing Chinese citizens to travel overseas again. However, he noted that the government will evaluate the degree of readiness of health protocols and the control of COVID-19 at each of the possible travel destinations. He told the Deputy Governor and the Bali Tourism Board Chairman that the Chinese people were very eager to come back to Bali for tourism and wedding tourism especially. He said the government hopes that by Chinese New Year celebrations in February 2021, that travel will begin once again between Bali and China, depending on conditions, how things work out. He stressed that the reopening of tourism would require a joint understanding between Bali and China on accepting mutual PCR tests for embarking and disembarking passengers, and that both countries must have effective health protocols in place to provide travelers with peace of mind. So, Chinese tourists get trashed a lot on social media in Bali, but Chinese tourists and the Australian tourists, they're the two big markets here. And so if Chinese tourism starts again in February, that is going to bring in some much needed cash. Maybe we'll see some businesses opening up again, people back to work. That would be great. But we don't know what's happening. Now, the vaccine is, right? The vaccine is supposed to be the game changer. It's not going to cure anybody, but it may put a stop to the spread of the virus. And so, yeah, we'll just have to see. So if you're planning on coming as a tourist, hold on. It's going to be a while still. If you are planning on coming long term, you're a person that wants to stay here for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. There are ways to do that, and you can look at, I'll keep these links below to immigration. You can check there. You can go over to the Facebook pages. The Law and Regulations in Indonesia Facebook page has a lot of information of people that are coming in on the B211 visas. And that's about it. The weather is yuck. It is right now 29.1 degrees outside, 75% humidity. And it's been dark all day. So, rainy season is here. Good for the island, good for nature, bad for my mental health. Okay, so that's it for today. I have a video coming up in a couple of days. I just shot it today. I have to go and edit it. It's going to be in Indonesian, in the Indonesian language. I don't know. I may or may not translate it. I think I'll just put some subtitles. I'm not going to translate the whole thing. This is predominantly for, primarily for Indonesian people. About my wife, talking about some of her plants and how they can be used for medicine, and cooking, because she's a great cook. And that's coming up, and then we have another one coming up of Zoey and Masha the Bear and me going down Jalan Diponegoro, which we've done before, but this time on the other side of the street to get a different look, a completely different take on Jalan Diponegoro. So those are coming up in the next week. So I hope that you were able to, if you're an American, you were able to have Thanksgiving as much as you wanted. I hope that you stayed home and follow the protocols. Things really look bad in the United States right now, and not just in the U.S. Korea is looking at increasing their level as well. I know they're up to 2 now, and they're talking about going up to 2.5. Numbers are up around 500 a day now. So things are not looking good around the world right now for COVID, as the part of the world that has winter is sliding into winter, and for us down here, we're sliding into the rainy season. And so that's it. Be safe, take care, be kind to someone today. Thanks for visiting. See you next time.